Trainee teachers are often understandably nervous about teaching a class for the first time. This programme aims to help calm the nerves and offer some practical suggestions for dealing with what may lie ahead.
Stories that we have in the Bible, they're there to actually make us interested, to make us want to read. Yeah, that's absolutely...
Like Adele Holmes, you may need to know what happens next when the technology fails to function.
Just bear with me while we get the DVD working.
And like Brett Shah, you'll be keen to know how to establish your authority over the class quickly and efficiently.
OK, let me see good setting. Let me see good hands.
3 weeks into his school placement at Marland Hill Primary in Rochdale, and PGCE student Brett Shah is preparing to teach his first lesson.
I'm teaching to use wow words in poems. So we're looking at words which are interesting. So things that describe what you can see, what you can hear. They did some poetry with the class teacher a few days ago. So it's building on prior experience and hopefully should lead them a bit further down that path where they're being expressive.
Take it slowly. You're not going to teach them everything there is to know in the first lesson. Try something you're comfortable with. Don't overstretch yourself.
Today's objective for me is behaviour management. Can I control the class? There's a class puppet called Spike. The class love this puppet, and what the class puppet does is he imitates good behaviour.
Coming into a class with established class code and rules, it is important as a student that you follow those rules because otherwise it will disrupt the children. It also establishes him as the teacher to the children because they know that he's following the same routines and rules that we already have.
I think before you start your first lesson, the most important thing to do is obviously speak to the class teacher, the regular class teacher, get to know the groupings, get to know a little bit about the makeup of the class, find out which children you need to watch.
At Outwood Grange Secondary School, PGCE student Adele Holmes is also preparing to deliver her first RE lesson.
Yeah, because I've got these questions in my head, but it may be that I don't go specifically in that order. This morning I got up again at 6. I was out of the house by 7:15. Checked and double-checked I had everything I needed to be able to teach. Forgot my dinner though, so I'm going to go hungry. You just tap it rather than drag it. I wanted to do a few checks on the DVD to make sure it works. I think the trickiest bit of the lesson is going to be using the interactive whiteboard. The issue is trying to keep 32 kids under control whilst trying to get a DVD working.
Do you know see his first copy? Yeah.
We'll give it a go. The Year 8s are currently studying Christianity, so the lesson itself is telling the parable of the prodigal son. In there it says about devoured your property with prostitutes, so I thought I'd change it to a living. I used to work for the NHS and I used to actually teach on a regular basis. I didn't have any nerves, I knew the subject, I just walked in and taught it. But because I'm learning a whole new subject and you start to panic and think, well, what if you actually take their learning back a step because you confuse them and they get a load of errors and misconceptions in their head.
I've got to have a cup of tea before I start. It's not to wake me up, it's just to warm up my voice. If you didn't have the nerves, then you wouldn't be excited about doing it. So the nervousness actually shows that I'm excited and that I'm committed and that I care.
To a certain extent, a teacher has to be a bit of an actor. So inside one can be nervous, saying, help, help, get me out of here. But in fact, you have to have chin up, shoulders back, and play the role of being a confident adult in charge of these students.
Brett's lesson will be observed by Year 1 teacher Rosemary Morehouse and Deputy Head Rosie Hunt.
Hello, good morning, children.
Good morning, Mr. Shah.
Morning, Mr. Shah.
Adele will be observed by her mentor, Head of RE, Shelley College. Both Brett and Adele will be given feedback after the lesson.
This is like doing your driving test all over again. And I failed that 5 times. You're not going to need them straight away.
Naughty, yeah? Shooter, okay.
This will help you with your homework.
Brett's feedback is straight after the lesson.
Anything that we're particularly pleased with?
I noticed that Reese at one point was not behaving, and I said something to him, and immediately he followed those actions through. And I was like, wow, and inside I was like, this is brilliant. Reese, can you show me good sitting? Thank you. And because I was focusing on behaviour management as well, I thought, wow, this is good.
I think you have a very good teacher presence already. And I think that's one of the things that some new teachers have to learn very quickly. And I think you have a very pleasant manner, but the children knew who were in charge. And you were talking about good listening, good seeing, good hands. And you used the puppet pictures, which I believe that you did yourself, to motivate the children. So I thought that was excellent.
OK, let me see good sitting. Let me see good hands.
Don't try and be the children's friend. It's really tempting when you first go in to try and be overly friendly with them and win them all over. But actually, when you start teaching them yourself, you're going to find that that was a problem because they won't have that distance between teacher and child.
What's your answer, please? The colours look different. I can see lots of different colours. I can see pink. Can anyone see green?
Simran said it's lots of different colours, and I think you then gave lots of examples of different colours, and it might have been an idea to just sort of take a step back and allow Simran to develop that, and you say, oh, what colours can you see, or what do they look like?
When I use a wow word, if you can hear that wow word, then you point to your ears. If you could see that wow word, you point to your eyes. Let me give you an example. You can see a bang and you can hear a bang, so you've got to choose which one. I think I confused the children when I was trying to play that game with them, when I was saying, like, point to your eyes. And because I was saying, if you can see the word, well, all the words on the screen. Well, you can see all the words, and then I noticed people were just pointing. But I also don't think they actually understood the game. That didn't quite work.
When you read the poem, one of the times that you read it, you could have talked about sight words, and then the second time you could have done the hearing, and I think that would have made it simpler for the children.
If something isn't going right, then it's okay to say, right, this isn't working, or we're not getting far on this, let's move to something else and let's forget that for the moment, and then go back to it when you've sorted it out.
Bear in mind that if you have the interactive whiteboard on all day, every day for every lesson, it's not necessarily the best thing to engage the children at all times. So choose the times that you use ICT.
We're going to make it as exciting as possible. So when I go, sparks shoot out, sparks shoot out! Slows down. Slows down. I'm confused as to who learnt what. And so in doing the assessment, like either my mental assessment or the actual written formal assessment, I'm a bit confused, like especially with the whole class teaching as who learnt what.
One of the ways that you could have assessed how they were doing with that, you could have asked each of the children to make up a sentence using one of the wow words that you were showing them.
Which picture are we going to choose? And we can write a poem with that one? No. That one or that one?
That one!
You want this one?
The other thing that slowed it down is on 2 occasions you gave them a choice. And then, of course, you get some children shouting out one thing, some another. Unless you're doing it for a reason, I would be the teacher and choose which one you're going to do. Okay then?
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Well, thanks for that feedback.
It's back to Adele to see what mentor Shelley made of her first lesson.
Good, clear instructions I've got to begin with. They were very clear. My target, though, would be to have something there for them to do. So it could be on the board, it could be a word search, a crossword. As soon as they come in the room, they're here to learn.
After a starter activity, Adele moved on to the DVD.
The video is of the prodigal son, which is one of Jesus' parables. Computer's doing something very strange. Just bear with me while we get the DVD working.
Don't assume because you've got a DVD player at home that it will work in exactly the same way in school. Technology can be your very best friend, but it can be your worst nightmare.
Thank you.
Remember, a trainee teacher isn't on his or her own in the classroom. There is always a host teacher or class teacher whose responsibility it is, and they would step in and help and support.
If you're going to use technology, have an alternative, because there could be a power cut. It could be that you wanted to use something on the interactive whiteboard and the systems go down, and if you've no backup, then you really are stuck.
Thankfully, Adele gets the DVD working without too much difficulty, and the lesson is back on track.
Did you enjoy the video? Yeah. Would you have enjoyed it as much if I'd have just stood and told it to you? No. I like your honesty.
What about the main activity? So your DVD, your Q&A?
I was actually really pleased that they give some of the answers that I thought about, because one of my fears was them just not understanding the kind of tack and route that I was going down. What do we think then the story was trying to say? Yeah, Brad?
Is it not that no matter what mistakes you make in life, you'll always be forgiven?
Forgiven, yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. I think sometimes I did panic that there was silence, although I tried not to show that to the class. At times I was like, is anyone going to answer me?
Yes, we're looking at dead time, it's called.
Do we think there's any other kind of emotions in there that were involved? Any ideas? Did the father love his son? And I know that you're supposed to give them, you know, a couple of like 8 to 10 seconds to think or whatever, but that 8 to 10 seconds seems
It's a very, very long time. There's ways that we can combat that. So I tend to repeat myself. If you've noticed, I repeat the question about 4 or 5 different times, but in a different way.
Yeah.
So that kind of gets rid of that 10 seconds of dead time. You had 2 misconceptions.
I know. You know, when you think about it afterwards, you think, oh, yeah.
So what were they?
Me 5,000 thing.
Yeah.
That wasn't a parable
it's not
at
a parable,
all.
it's
It was
a miracle.
I don't know whether you've heard of him in the Bible about feeding the 5,000 and the lost talents, all these different parables.
And the other one?
Something to do with the 10 Commandments.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, that's not it, and I'd said yes. Can anybody remind me of a 10 Commandment? Go on.
Love your neighbour as yourself.
Yep.
Love your neighbour as you love yourself is not one of the 10 Commandments.
No.
It's one of the 2 greatest commandments.
It's the 2.
Yeah, and we did that last lesson when we did the 10 Commandments with them.
Don't ever think that you're going to know it all, because sometimes even young children will know more than you do, and sometimes you can feed off them as well. You don't have to be the fount of all knowledge. You know, feel that you can work with the children and even admit sometimes, oh, I didn't know that.
Thank you all very, 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 very much. They were really good, so I didn't want them to think that I hadn't noticed that and that I hadn't appreciated it, basically.
Yeah. But always keep in your mind that you want them to behave like that every lesson.
And don't be greedy and selfish.
Yeah. So the moral is don't be selfish, isn't it, really?
For a first lesson, it was very good.
I think as a teacher, you've constantly got to reinvent what you're doing, and you've constantly got to make sure that it's at a consistently high level, but that you always do try and aim for more, because if you rest on your laurels, that's when the kids get bored, they get fed up, they're not going to get the best out of the lesson, and they're not going to get the knowledge that you're trying to teach them.